everybody, you're about to watch what is an epic game of Chain of Command, but I want to just start off by saying thanks very much to everybody who's subscribed. The YouTube channel is really increasing in numbers, and I really appreciate everybody who's subscribed. This takes quite a lot of doing, putting together. It's something I really enjoy doing, but honestly, without everybody's subscribing into it, it wouldn't be quite the same. All the comments that people put in, everything like that. I really just want to start off by saying thanks very much to everybody, and I'll also reveal in a second who's the winner of this competition and who we're naming this game after. Okay, what I've started to do is put a little bit of a competition and name these games after one of the subscribers, the recent subscribers. Last time it was Andrew Cox, and this time out of the hat is Lunchbox 59. So congratulations. So this game is going to be known as Operation Lunchbox. Welcome back to Wargaming World, and we've got a very exciting game ahead. We have here the British have managed to capture a German general, and they are escorting him back to HQ and see how much information that they can get from him, and certainly it could be something critical in the early days of the Battle of France 1940. Unbeknownst to the British is that the Germans are well ahead of them in terms of intelligence, and here the Germans have built a roadblock and are ready for them, waiting for them in the church, the buildings here, and in the watermill. And as the British look to come through along this road, and the objective being to get off the table by turning down here, the Germans are going to start with every aim to stop them getting there. Okay, so there's a few homemade rules into this game. When the British come onto the board, they've got 3 jump-off points. One here, another here, and the final one is back here. And the German jump-off points are hidden in the church, in this house here with the red tiles, and in the watermill as well. Right, so some of the house rules are that I'm going to roll 1d6 to see how long it's taken for the Germans to construct this roadblock. They've looked to try and disrupt the British by attacking the British infantry, and as a consequence the Bren team and the 2 vehicles with the Matilda 2 have got slightly ahead of the infantry, and therefore they might be trapped. Now, once we know how many, once we roll for the d6 here, that will tell us how many phases the British have to get onto the board and along this road. The Universal Carrier and the truck and the Matilda must come on this direction until they're stopped, and the way in which they're going to come on the board is that we'll know that if, for example, it takes, we get a 3 in terms of how long it's taken the roadblock to be constructed, they will have 3 full phases to come onto the board. However, all 3 vehicles can only come on a 3, and none of the other British support forces and standard section can come on until these 3 vehicles are on the table. For the Germans, they're not going to have it all their own way. In terms of the support points, the British have 12, so that means we've got this Universal Carrier, we've got a Vickers team which are guarding the general inside that vehicle, and at the back we've got the Matilda. The Germans have 6, 2 of which we've had for the roadblock. The other 4 is for a 75mm infantry gun. That's what they're going to use to try and stop the Matilda and indeed the universal carrier. In terms of the rest of the forces as well, slightly unusual in terms of chain of command, but the sections are already in place. So there's one in the church, another between these 2 buildings, and another in the watermill. The British sections, once they follow on from the vehicles, must come on through the 3 jump-off points that I highlighted earlier. Let's start and see how long it's taken for the Germans to construct the roadblock. 4, so we're going to say that the British have 4 phases to get their vehicles on board. First phase for the British, and they can bring on 1 vehicle. There we go, so the first vehicle is on, which is the universal carrier. Second phase, there's no 3s there. Third phase, no 3s there either. And final phase, right, 2 3s, so we can bring on the other 2 vehicles, and then the game starts. The one thing we haven't rolled so far is for force morale, and so we have a 9 for the British and an 11 for the Germans. And before we start in earnest, let's just have a quick look at the board. If we look here on the left hand side, the tailors and the brasserie, and just coming further along, we've then got this road that the British must follow. We've had a particular road that's already been hit by Stukas. Here we have the cemetery and the church. In the back here we've got trees. The way it'll be will be soft cover in the area, but we'll be able to see through it, so it's more of a park is the idea of that particular area. So we've got the roadblock and the Germans occupying the building here. In the background we've got the river. It's passable really, so if the troops need to use it, they can get across, jumping on top of those boats, etc. I don't really want to be used as a barrier for movement. And then we've got the Germans here in the watermill, and right at the back of the table we've got our farm and the farm owner there, and the windmill. Right, okay, so let's get into the game as normal, and we'll start off with a German phase. Okay, start with the German phase. So we've got 1 for chain of command, 1, 2 2s and a 3. Okay, the Germans have 2 2s, a 3 and a 1, as well as the chain of command dice. With the 2 2s, a senior leader has come on in this building, the one with the red tiles. The Germans could fire from the church, but the rules here are that as soon as the Germans fire, then the British vehicles can really act independently, whereas as it stands at the moment without firing, then when I roll for the British, if we have a 3, I don't mean a 1 and a 2, just a 3, then these vehicles have to move as quickly as they can in this direction, and so they will continue to do that until they are fired upon. So the only way we can effectively bring a section on is if we get a 1 and a 2. So let's see what happens now that it's the British phase. Okay, British phase. And so we can bring on a senior leader and a section with the 1 and the 2. A 5 is 1 for the chain of command dice, and the 3 means that the universal carrier must move. Right, the universal carrier has to move because we've rolled a 3. It's going to be 2d6 plus 2 inches for each d6, so therefore an additional 4, because it's not going flat out because it knows it's going to turn left. So let's see how far that will move. So we've got 9, so 13 inches in total. With the 1, 2 and the 4, I've brought a section in with the junior leader, and I have also brought the senior leader in there at the back on the 4. I'd also add they're also moving tactically. Right, it's the German phase. Senior leader and 2 1s and 2 2s. Well, the Germans are going to pass, and we're going to pass straight to the British phase. Right, so we have 2 3s. We've got the senior leader can do something, and then 1 for the chain of command dice, but that means the truck and the Matilda must move. Right then, wheeled vehicles, which is truck, is double the distance. So we've got 14 inches there, and the Matilda being slow gets no benefit, but it still goes at 9 inches. Right, with the 4, I'm going to take the tactical off here, and the senior leader is going to order this section to move at the double, realising that the vehicles are getting quite far away. So that means it's 3d6. There's going to be shock, but the senior leader is with them, so we can take the shock off also. And that means they'll move 10 inches. Right, with 10 inches that section is in a good position for support, and we'll now see what happens in the German phase. 1 for the chain of command dice, senior leader can order 1 and 2 2s. Okay, it's the German phase, but because the vehicles are beyond 18 inches, I'm not going to give away the German positions, because they can't do a great deal with the Bren carrier. For a start, it needs to be within 18 inches before it can do anything as the machine guns. We could fire the infantry gun, but I haven't brought that on yet early in the game, so that means it's the British phase. Right, we've got 2 5s for the chain of command dice, which takes it on to 4. We've got the senior leader can put an order in, and 1 if a team wants to operate something independently. Okay, with the 4, the senior leader has split the section. The Bren team are here, potentially giving cover. They can't fire because the Germans haven't fired, but this remaining section, the rifle team, are now moving into position with the senior leader and their junior leader. The back there with the 1, I brought on the mortar again, although I will be tempted to fire smoke in advance. The Germans haven't fired, so there's no confirmation that the enemy are actually here. So that's just the end of the British phase. We didn't have any 3s, and therefore we didn't move any of those 3 vehicles. German phase. And 2 4s, 2 1s. Right, the targets are too tempting. So with this, with the 2 1s, we'll have a 2. So the section's going to fire on the British here on the rifle section there, the rifle team, and the senior leader in this building is going to order a machine gun team from this building to fire on the Bren team, which I've realised has become a little detached and therefore might well take all the casualties of this. I'll have to work that out. Right, thankfully I've just worked out that the Bren team is within 4 inches of the rifle, so let's see how many times we hit. Leading 4, 5s and 6s. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. Soft cover in both cases. The greens are going to be the machine gun team. 4, 5 shot, 6 to kill. So that's 2 kills and a point of shock on both teams. Is it the leader? 1 or 2? It will be. No, it's not. Right, the whole section is going to fire out these windows. So we've got firing at the whole section, close enough to be both the Bren team and the rifles. Means we've got 6 rifles and 8 dice for the machine gun. So 14 dice in total, leading 5s and 6s. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. As we were before. We've got 1 point of shock with the Bren team and nothing else. Okay, now it's the British phase. 1, 2, 3, 5. Now that the Germans have fired, we don't have to use the vehicles with the 3, so I'll have a look and see how we're going to move this forward. British chain of command dice is now up to 5. Okay, with a 1, the Vickers machine gun, which I've realised doesn't have a junior leader, has disembarked from the truck. I'm going to say that it can't fire because it's it's a heavy weapon, and therefore it's just going to get itself set up. There, with the 2, this section is going to return fire into the hard cover of the church, and with the 3 I've brought on another section with a junior leader. Okay, needing 5s and 6s. And we've got 5 hits. 5 will be shock, 6 will be a kill, and the green are the rifles for the Germans. And we've got 1 point of shock on the machine gun team and the rifle team. Right, it's now the German phase, and the battle really has started. Okay, we've got the senior leader. We could bring on a second if we wish. I'm not so keen to do that early, but we've got 2 chain of command dice, which takes them up to 4. We've got 2 4s, so the senior leader in this particular building can't reach the church on the other side, and I'm not going to bring on the second senior leader, so we're just going to use this section here. So I've split the building out slightly. We've still got the MG34 firing at the top there, and that's 8 dice. And then in the room here where we've got some holes in the wall, in the nearest room to us here I'll have 1 rifle firing, and then at the back there I'll have the junior leader fire, and the junior leader, because he's got an SMG, can have 4 dice. So in total we've got 13 dice firing on the British section here. 13 dice needing 4s. 6 hits, and so we're in soft cover, so 4, 5 is shock, 6 to kill. The white dice will be the machine gun. And we've got 2 points of shock, 1 with each team. Now then, the Bren team has gone up to 3 points of shock, which means it's now pinned, and because it's in the line of sight of the fire from the Germans, we would need the leaders to actually connect to them, move across to them, in order to remove that shock. So yeah, that's the current situation, and now we are over to the British phase. 2 2s, a 4 and 2 1s. Okay, so we're going to put the 1 and the 2 together, so I'll have 3 with the junior leader and the Bren carrier to continue moving in this direction. With the 4, we're going to have the senior leader take off 2 points of shock and order the rifle section up to the wall of that building if we can get there. With the 1, we're going to fire some smoke, and smoke to land here, just in front of the barrier. And finally, with the 2, we're going to move this section up as well. See how far the Bren carrier is going to go. It can't go flat out. It's not going to go 3 inches because it's not going to go in a straight line in that way. Oh, that's terrible. Right, 2 1s. You get plus 2 inch per dice, so it'll go 6 inches forward. Okay, so I want to land smoke from the light mortar over there right on here. So let's see what we get. 1. That's certainly a deviation. It's gone 6 inches to the right of the target. 2 inches. Right, we've got smoke. I think that's probably done the trick in terms of obscuring fire onto this section. So yeah, that's not a bad result at all. We've taken 2 points of shock off and rolled 9, so the British can move right up to that particular building. Let's see whether the Germans drop grenades out the window, but anyway, let's move up there. Right, the next section have moved 7 inches up and are now close enough within the senior leader there, within 4 inches, so they would take any hits if he was fired at. So he's now with that section. German phase. 2 4s, 3 1. See what we can do. Okay, with the first 4, the senior leader is ordering this squad to drop a grenade out of each of the gaps. So there'll be a couple of grenades thrown out. The machine gun team at the top will be ordered to fire on this section here that's advancing, as will the section that are inside the watermill. We've got a machine gun and a number of rifles, so I'll just work out how many dice each time. Right, I'm going to put 2 grenades through the hole in the wall here. It's certainly big enough to do it, and although it's supposed to be a minimum of 4 inches away, the protection for the Germans inside will be the fact that they're behind this hard wall. I think realistically it's going to be anything other than a double 1, in which case they'll have dropped the grenade. So let's have a look and see what we'll do. First grenade. Oh, blimey. 1 and a 2. And a 7. So it's 2 hits, and sorry, it's 2 hits there, so that's 4 dice damage in the open, which causes 1 kill and 1 point of shock. Let's see whether it's the junior leader. Yes, it is. And what happens to him? He's killed. So the consequence of that from a bad thing, it's a -1 as the British go down to 8 with them around. First machine gun team needing 4 5s and 6s. That looks like 4 hits. White will be the machine gun team in that section, and it's 2 points of shock to the rifle. I mentioned the reason why it was 4 5 rather than 3 4 and 5 6 for kill is because we're firing through these trees, so I've counted this as soft cover. This time I've got the machine gun team firing out of the top left window and 2 riflemen firing out of the top right. And I've got the figures outside there just as a note to myself that they're there. And this time it's a 5 and 6 to hit. Got 3 hits there, so we have again it's light cover, and we have 1 kill on the rifle team and 1 point of shock on the machine gun team. No, it's not. The British phase. 2 4s, 1 and a 2, and 1 for the chain of command dice, which means we've got a full chain of command dice now with the British. Okay, with the 4, the senior leader is going to order this section to throw grenades back inside the building. He's also going to move, so I'm going to roll for that in a second, across to this team. However, the other order he's going to do is going to order this mortar team to fire smoke in this direction, and I'll sort that out shortly. We have the section here is going to also move, and then the Vickers machine gun is going to fire at the machine gun team at the top of this building. Start with the British grenades. Just as lucky as the Germans were beforehand. And with the second one, oh crikey, that's a disaster. It's a disaster. The effect of that means the grenade goes off and kills one of the British section. The effect on the Germans is actually 3 dice because it's inside a building, and that's 3 points of shock. He's got to be able to move far enough before he can do the order for the smoke, which is easy, that's fine. Drop the smoke here just to try and obscure the firing from the watermill. Let's see how we go on. And that's Bob. They moved 7 inches there, although the Brenty moved 7, the other moved 6 because he's got a point of shock, and that means it's the German phase. My mistake there, actually I've forgotten the Vickers machine gun to fire, and I painted that some time ago, so this is the first time it's fired. It's firing at the machine gun team, which is at the roof of the building here, and so we need 5s and 6s, it's beyond 24 inches, and so yeah, let's see how it goes on with its first shot. That's very effective, that's 5 hits, so it's a 5 for shock, 6 to kill, and that's at 1 kill. It's there because I wondered whether to test for the junior leader, but I didn't think so because it's right out at the bottom of the building, so I'm going to choose not to there. And so it really is the German phase. 2 4s, a 3 and a 1. Right, okay, it's a German turn, and it's actually a new morning here. It's very windy, which you'll probably hear in the background of the video, but never mind. We had 2 4s, a 3 and a 1, and we'll have the senior leader set some orders for the section in this building. I'm tempted to bring on the 75mm gun, the infantry gun, here to fire on the either the Bren carrier or indeed on the tank there. However, because the British are also advancing here, I'm wondering whether it gets if we get overwhelmed in this building, then we might lose the gun, and it might be better just to hold it back. With the 1, I have brought on the mortar team here, and again I'm tempted to move the team from the church over to these buildings and then put up more of a defence. However, it's got a good advantage in here. It's covered by the smoke, in fact, so ultimately the objective of the game is for the truck to drive down this road and to get out here on this exit. So as it is, I think I'm going to hold the defensive position as it stands and let the British to come onto the Germans. So therefore we'll use the senior leader here and try and add some further casualties. Right, the senior leader is going to order that section to drop 2 grenades out the gap in the wall. They're also going to order so that's 2 command points. With the other, it's going to order the team to fire. Now, because we've got 3 points of shock, although we would normally have a submachine gun with the junior leader and a rifle, we have to lose a rifle because we've got 3 points of shock there. So in the end, it's going to be 2 grenades, which will be 2 dice each if they hit, and a submachine gun out the window, which is or out the gap, I should say. So therefore, that'll be 4 dice. Right, after having the disaster of a double 1 beforehand, let's see whether the grenade drops out okay. Yeah, first one's fine, and the second grenade, that's fine too, so that's 4 dice in total damage, which means it's 2 killed and 2 points of shock. Also the machine gun fire, that's 4 hits. And the damage there is 2 killed and 2 points of shock again. Right, as a consequence, the team breaks. That's just a goner. So I'm tempted to avoid the bad thing happening because I've got a chain of command dice, but I'm going to risk it and just hope it's not a 6. That's a 3, so it's a -1 to morale for the British, which now goes down to 7. Okay, it's the mortar. 2 hits. And no effect. Right, that's the end of the German phase, and it's a really bad phase for the British. I'm really forgetting what the objective here, which is to get these vehicles over the road and down to the escape point, as it were, and it seems to be getting stuck really into a firefight. Can't get it cleared with the infantry, so it'd be a really good idea if they got a double phase here. But let's see. No, not a double phase, and instead we've got 2 senior leaders, a 2 and a 3. Okay, I'm going to start off with the 3. I'm going to move this Bren carrier, get that shifted. With the 2, I'm going to move this section as close as we can again to this this building. Try this again. With a 4, I'm going to take a point of shock off, get the Bren team to fire. Also, I'm going to order the Vickers machine gun to fire. We've still got a 4 after that, and we'll see how we go. Right, with the Bren carrier, I'm going to go hell for leather and see how we go on 3d6. Right, we've got 7 inches plus 6 inches, so which get 2 inches per dice. So yeah, so we've got 13 inches in total. Vickers machine gun, needing 5s. Actually, the Vickers machine gun is 24 inches to be close, so it needed 4s, and as a consequence, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits. We're all on the machine gun team, needing 5s for shock, 6 to kill. 1 point of shock. This time it's the Bren team, needing 4, 5s and 6s. Just 2 hits. Same again, 5 for shock, 6 to kill. Another point of shock. Right, what I've also done is I've used a chain of command dice to move a jump off point closer in. It has to be 6 inches behind cover, or behind our forces, which is the British here, and in cover, and it's there. And with that, with the additional 4 that I have, I'm going to bring in a senior leader. I know it means there's a section still off the board, and I'm going to have to roll for that moving forward, but they're going to come on there, and it's going to take the 3 points of shock off this group. German phase. 2 2s, a 3 and a 4. Right, with the 3, the junior leader is going to take off 2 points of shock from the team in here. The senior leader with the 3 commands is going to order to drop 2 grenades, 1 out of each gap, and then the junior leader to fire the submachine gun. And with the 2 2s, I'm bringing on the senior leader in the church, and he's going to take off the 2 points of shock which were in that church with the 2 teams. Right, first grenade hits. Second grenade. Oh, not again. The second grenade goes off in the building. Because it goes off inside, it's actually 3 dice, 1 point of shock, and 1 person killed. Is it the leader? Yes, it is. And what happens to the leader? Loses a command initiative and a light wound. Also, there's a bad thing happens. 4, I think, is a -1. Right, the effect of the first grenade is 1 person killed. Is that the junior leader? No, it's not. You can then have you can still fire the submachine gun, and that is 3 hits. 3 hits of the British in the open. That means 1 killed and 2 points of shock. Is that the leader? No, it's not. So we've got, in the end, 1 point of shock with each team, the machine gun and the rifles, and both the machine gun and the rifles lose a man. It's now the British phase. That's not too helpful. 3 points for the chain of command dice and just a 2. Right, with the 2 I'm going to see if we can bring the section in from the new jump off point. We need 4, 5 and 6. No, you can't. Right, after a very poor British phase, it's the German phase. 2 3s, a 4, 1 for the chain of command dice, which takes it up to 5, and it's the British next phase. Right, I'm going to bring in the infantry gun, but I've already bring on both senior leaders, so I need to see whether it can actually come on at all. 4 5 6 needed, and it can. Right, we're going to use the junior leader in here with one of the 3s. So it's only got 1 command, so it's going to take 1 point of shock off. The senior leader is also going to take 2 points of shock off and order the section to fire, which it will do, but it'll only be the submachine gun and 1 rifle firing through the gaps. And then with the second 3, we brought on the infantry gun, but it's going to take a shot all the way over here. There's a direct line at that Matilda, and see how we go on. Right, we're going to fire at the tank. It's certainly obscured from here, but it's still we can still hit it. So that's a 7. So let's see how we go on. It starts off with, it hasn't moved or anything like that. That's definitely a miss. Essentially then we've got a submachine gun, which is 4 dice and 1 rifle, firing on the British section, needing 4 5s and 6s, and that is 2 hits. Green is the machine gun team. They're out in the open. Let's see what the consequence is. We've got 1 killed in the rifle and 1 point of shock. Let's check and see if it's the leader. No, it isn't. British phase. Okay, so a 3 1s and a 5, taking the chain of command dice up to 4. I don't think we've had a double phase in the entire game so far. Unusual. Right, with the 3 we have our Bren team, and it's going to come over the roadblock. It can't go flat out, obviously, because the roadblock's in there, so we're going to roll 2d6. If we get a double 1, and we've had some of those already in the game, then one of the tracks is going to come off, and it's going to be stuck on top of the roadblock. So let's see how we do with that. That's 1 command for it. Once we've gone over, we might well fire with the machine gun, but let's see how far they go and yeah, what the outcome is. Right, so 6 inches. Normally on a road you would get 2 inches each. However, because we're going to go over this roadblock, I'm going to say that you just go 6 inches forward. Right, the Bren team has gone over the roadblock, and it's now going to fire with one of the Bren guns at the infantry gun. 6 dice needing 4 5s and 6s. Crikey. Right, okay, that's 5 hits. So it's 4 5 will be shock, 6 to kill. They are behind the gun shield, so they've got a -1. And we've got 1 killed and 2 points. Sorry, 1 killed and 1 point of shock. Is it the junior leader? No, it's not. And back to this battle. With the 3 1s, we're going to have the junior leader here order with his 2 command points to have 2 grenades put through. Yeah, I know I did a little too many with the Germans the other side, but anyway, this is what we'll do from here. We've got 2 dice, and you get 3 dice for each, but I need to roll, just make sure I don't get a double 1. Surely can't happen again. First, no, that's fine. Second one, that's fine. So that's 6 dice damage in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is 1 kill and 4 points of shock. Is it the leader? Yes, it is. And what happens to the leader? Loses another point of command. However, the fact that he's lost 1 already means that the junior leader is killed. So a bad thing happens. and that's -1. So morale for the Germans goes down to 9. German phase. Still no double phase. 2 3s, a 4 and a 1. Right, the Germans have a 1, 4 and 2 3. So with a 1, we're going to get this machine gun team to come downstairs onto the first floor and pointing out the window which will be facing into the road. The 4 means that the senior leader is going to take 3 points of shock off that team there. The 3 here means that the infantry gun is going to fire on the Bren team, and then if we've no success with this section, we use the 3 and the machine gun's going to fire over onto the Bren team as well. And from an elevated position, I'm going to see whether we actually have them simply firing with the team inside in hard cover. Let's see how far that machine gun team can move. 6 inches or so, that's fine. Moving to the next level in the building. Right, the infantry gun fires at the Bren team, or the Bren gun I should say, and that's definitely a hit. Right, armour piercing of 4 against the Bren carrier's armour of 2, needing 5s and 6s. And that's absolutely nothing. It's not even a net 0, so nothing happens. Okay, I've now got a 3 here, and the junior leader is going to order 2 things. One is for the light machine gun to fire, and also for the rifles, but the way we're going to work it out is the light machine gun is going to fire, and we're just going to test to see whether the Bren carrier gets any saves, and then see the consequence after that. If it's still fine, I'm going to fire with the 6 rifles, and this time, because they're elevated, firing through higher windows, I'm going to say that the troops inside have hard cover, and we'll just go from there. So let's start off and see whether the Bren carrier gets any saves. No, it doesn't. So what we need to do is to work out and see what the consequence would be at net 0. 5. Check 5 means it needs to reverse, because it's got to go. It says flat out to cover. However, I think the realistic way of doing it is that it would reverse on its next turn. So that's what we'll have to do when we roll a 3. But we do need to roll 6 dice as well, because we're going to have the rifle team fire on it. 4 5s and 6s. That means we've got 2 hits. 4 5s and 6s is 4 hits. Hard cover, 6 to kill, 5 for shock. Nothing. British phase. British double phase. And we do have a 3, so we're going to withdraw the Bren carrier. And there's also another point on the chain of command dice, so that's goes to 5. Now, although the Bren team is supposed to reverse flat out, it can't do that through the barrier, so we'll roll 2 dice. If I get a double 1 on this, it gets stuck again on the roadblock. It doesn't, so it goes 7 inches, we'll add 4, we didn't do last time going over, did we? So we'll say 7 inches, it reverses. Now I'm going to make a judgment call here. I'm going to say the fact that the Bren carrier has gone through it twice means that the roadblock really, other than being a bit of a nuisance, is no longer that much of an issue. So that's helpful, I think, realistically, for the truck when that needs to go through it, if indeed we can ever get to the point where it advances. Second British phase, so I'm going to roll 4 dice. Another double phase, another chain of command dice, so it takes it to a full chain of command dice, and a 4. Right, just to equal things out, so I'm going to say that the senior leader, hidden away there, is going to order this section to drop 2 more grenades, and then we're out of grenades at that point, but I did the same for the Germans. And also we'll take 1 point of shock, and we'll take that off the Bren team here. First grenade, just not a double 1. That works. And the second one, and same again. So that means that's 6 dice of damage inside. And we have 1 kill and 3 points of shock. That's a British phase, so down to 3 dice. 4 and a 1. Right, the senior leader is going to take the 2 points of shock off here on this team and then order it to attack the Germans the other side of this wall. I think that's reasonable in terms of having to get over the barrier, but I'm going to say that it requires 2d6 of movement to get there, which will obviously impact the fight itself. So I'll just check that it's not something daft like a double one with the roll. Oh no. Right, okay, let's see how the fighting goes. Right, the fighting is the Germans end up with 10 because they're defending in a hard cover essentially, and the British will end up with 12. They've got a junior leader and a light machine gun there, and so that gives us 10 versus 12, looking out for 5s and 6s. We've ended up with just 1 there, so it's 1, 6, no 5s, and so 12 dice for the British. So that's 1, 2, 3 kills, and with 2 additional points of shock. Let's see whether it was the British junior leader who was injured. No, it wasn't. Right, the British win by 2. The Germans end up losing 3 men, and they have a shock of 6. They would rout, but they can't really go anywhere, and therefore these 2 will surrender. Now, there is a machine gun team on the first floor, and as it stands at the moment, I think they could escape straight down the stairs and out of the door. I'm not altogether too sure what I'll do with that, but as it stands at the moment, we need to roll for a team loss. Actually, a team breaks is what we're rolling here. They are going to surrender, but let's see what we get. With a 5 is a -1, so the Germans are down to 8. It's a German phase. Two 4s, 2, 2, and 1 point on the chain of command dice, which takes them to a full chain of command dice. Right, I've got a senior leader in this building here, and with the 4, I need to have something slightly creative. He's been making orders into this next building, so I'm going to say it's fairly flimsy walls. So I'm going to say again that these infantry are supposed to be in here. Anyway, I couldn't put the figures in. I'm going to say that he orders that section, or that machine gun team, to move. Now I'm going to roll. If they roll a 1, well, if they roll a 2, 3, or 4, they're going to go upstairs onto the 2nd floor and try and defend themselves from there. If they roll 5, 6, 7, or 8, then they're going to make a dash for it down these stairs and see how far they can get away, and maybe they can get out in the back door. And then 9, 10, 11 and 12, they're just going to start moving but then surrender. So I think that might be the most sensible thing. That's a bit of house rules, but anyway, let's have a look and see what that is. 6, so they're going to make a dash for it. Let's see how far they might be able to run. If it's a low number, they're still going to have to surrender anyway. No, 9, I'm going to say that they can get out of the door at the back, so we don't lose a team that way. Then what we're going to do is to say that the senior leader is going to make a dash for it himself, coming out of the door there and going in this direction. So let's see how far he can get away from that building. He's not going to get out at all. He'll just get somewhere down the stairs. Artistic license with all of that, but after all, it is a game. So the senior leader is by that green door. Now we've got another 4. So the other senior leader who is in this building here is going to get the infantry gun to fire. This time the infantry gun is going to fire at that building, and We're also going to have this section fire also, so again it's going to fire at the British in the ground floor. Infantry gun at the British ground floor. That is 3 hits. Uh, 4 and 5 for shock, 6 to kill. The black one is the machine gun team, and that's 3 points of shock in total. The whole section is going to fire. The Germans, 6 rifles and an MG34, needing 4s to hit. 8 hits, 4 on the machine gun, 4 on the rifles. The black one is the machine gun. So we have 1 dead off the rifle team and 3 points of shock. Right, that section under the junior leader have now got 6 points of shock, and they automatically break, so they'll go out of the window, oddly enough in the similar kind of fashion as the Germans here, but anyway, they'll be making a dash for it. And rather than use a chain of command, sorry, I'm going to use a chain of command dice so I don't test that. So the British are going to stay on 7 for morale. Reflection. I'm going to take both of those off the board. It hasn't cost anything for either side in terms of morale, but I'm going to take them away so it's not any more complication about whether they would be engaged or anything like that. So yeah, that's just to remove the British phase. Not a great roll. 1 for the chain of command dice, 3 1s and a 4. Right, before I do anything else, I'm going to get this truck moving. That's the purpose of the game. So we need a 3. We've got 3, and we can do 2 d6. We can't go flat out, so we'll do 2, but it's a double of whatever we get. So we can make a turn, so let's see what we get. Not great. So that's 8 inches. Senior leader's going to move, start off with that. 2d6. 6 inches. 2 command points. It's taking a point of shock off, and we'll get this Bren team to fire at the infantry. Moving 4s. 1, 2, 3, 6 to kill. 1 kill. And is it the junior leader? Yes, it is. What happens to the junior leader? Loses a command initiative. Command dice, but I'm not going to burn it for the Germans, so let's see what happens in terms of a bad thing. And that's a -1. Phase, again, couldn't be closer. We've got 7 on the morale for both the British and the Germans, and it's a German phase. 2 for the chain of command dice, and a 1, 2, 3. Right, we'll put the 1 and the 3 together, so we'll have the senior leader order the infantry gun to fire, and it'll also take 1 point of shock off, so I'll get rid of that. And then this section here will fire, everybody's firing at the Bren team in there, needing 4, 5s and 6s to hit. And we've got 2 hits. Consequence of that, we've got 1 killed and 1 point of shock. We've got 14 dice, which is 6 rifles and an MG34, needing 4s. 7 hits. And they're wiped out. Team wiped out. 3, that's a -1 to morale. British down to 6 phase. Right, well, we've got 2 3s. 3 3s if we want to use the tank, and the senior leader. See where we go from here. First things first, let's get the Bren team to move. I'm going to go 2 dice. Still don't think we can really go flat out, but I'm just going to move because I also want to fire as well. So we've got 2d6 plus 2 for each dice. Alright, okay, so now we've got 13 inches. The Bren team's going to fire as it comes in. We need 4, 5s and 6s, and we've got 3 hits. Let's see what the impact is. 1 killed. Let's see if it's the junior leader. Oh yes, it is. So whatever's going to happen, it's going to be killed here because it's its 2nd wound. So again, that's going to be bad thing for the Germans. 5. I'll have to double check. I think that's a -1, but I'll check. -2, so the Germans are down to 5. Next time I think I might well burn the chain of command dice, but down to 5. Right, the truck's going to move. It gets double for whatever this is. 8. Very modest. We're going to bring in a new section. We need a 4, 5 and 6 to bring in the third and final section of the British. And yes, they can come on. And then with the 1 at the back there, going to fire another smoke. Target is just to the left of that existing smoke there. So can we get that? Let's see what it lands. 5 is right on the money. And finally with the 4, they order for take 2 points of shock off this team and order it to move towards the building over here. So we have 2d6, 7 inches. German phase. Not a double phase, but at least we've got 1 for the chain of command dice, 2 senior leader orders and a 1. We've got 2 4s and a 1. We do have a senior leader actually in here at the moment, so I'll make a dash for it, I guess. The senior leader though is in here, so we're going to have the infantry gun fire on there, and then I think we'll also have the section fire on the Bren gun, depends on what happens to it. So let's start the infantry gun firing at the Bren team. Definitely a hit. The infantry gun has an arm piercing of 4 to the Bren team. Oh, which is lost by just by 1. So I'll have a check at that. A roll and see what the consequences are. So it's a 2. The with 1, it's at 1 point of shock, and the gunner panics, so it can't fire next phase with the Bren gun. However, we're going to have this team, this whole section fire on it from an elevated position. 4s, 5 hits, hard cover means 5 for shock, 6 to kill. 2 points of shock in total because he's already got 1, and 1 killed. Is it the junior leader? No, it's not. Right, with the other leader, I think he's just going to stay in that building. So, in fact, nothing else is going to happen. So it's the British phase. Two 4s and 2 1s. Right. Well, this team here. This might be slightly suicidal, but I'm going to order for this section to move at the double. The senior leader who's with them can take the shock off, and they're going to move in this direction towards the cemetery. Distance 7. The senior leader is going to order the Bren team to try and get into this building, and he himself is going to move back in this direction towards the Vickers machine. The aim of that move with that section was to try and get them right across here, maybe draw some fire into the church, but they've not got far enough. So the question is, depending on my roll, do I end the turn, get rid of the smoke and fire on them, or do we need to fire at the Bren team again? Anyway, German phase. And 1 more for the chain of command dice, and 3 4s and a 1. Right, exactly as we were. We're not going to end the turn just as yet. Instead, we're going to have the infantry gun fire again at the Bren carrier. And that looks like it's the end of the road for it. 2 on... Right, the Bren carrier is knocked out, and it's 1d6 hits to the inhabitants, which is 2 hits as if they're in the open. There's 4 of them. We've got 1 point of shock there. Right, that support is now knocked out. I will roll in a second about bad thing happened. The team get out. They've got 1 point of shock. So I'll have that with that team. They're now going to get fired on by the section here. So it's 14 dice, needing 4s. They now become a separate team. 1 more. 7 hits. 7 hits, and we've got 2 killed and 1 point of shock. Leader. No, it's not. Right, we're having a support unit killed, essentially, and it's a 1, so it's a -1 to the British morale. So I've rolled a 1, and I think that mortar team could certainly fire at the team as they got out. So I'm going to fire there, using 4, 5s and 6s. There's 1 hit, and in the open will be another point of shock, which means in total we've got 3, and the 2 we've got 3 shock with 2 infantry, and therefore they're pinned. Now the British phase. Okay, 2 4s, 2 2s and a 1. 4 are going to do the same thing. They're going to move at the double, and the senior leader will take the shock off. We'll see where we go. Alright, this time they move 9 inches. The tank's going to move, so I'll have 3 dice for that. We don't add anything because it's a slow moving vehicle. Ooh, crikey. But we've got 16 inches. Right up to the edge of the hedge here, so it'll make a turn. The senior leader is going to order the Vickers machine gun to move further in towards getting into the road. It means I can roll 2d6, and then I have to get rid of the higher of the 2 because it's a heavy weapon, I think. Either way, it's just 2 inches, so that's not very far at all. Then move 6 inches, and I'll then order the Bren team to move 6 inches. Right, I've moved a building out of the way so that by moving that 6 inches, they're near enough to get in hand-to-hand combat with the mortar team. Right. After calculating that, it's 9 versus 6 in the German favour. Okay, the outcome of that is that both are wiped out. Now, rather than take a test, I'm going to avoid having to take a bad thing for a team being wiped out for the Germans, so it'll be a chain of command dice. But we need to test it for the British. And 3 is going to be a -1, which takes the British down to 4. It's suicidal for that attack there by the British. However, I think getting rid of the German chain of command dice is also a good option. So let's see what happens here. Oh, but it's a... right, well, the whole point of not having the chain of command is so that it could keep the smoke. However, it's also the end of turn, so all the smoke disappears. And then we have a 1 and a 3, so we have the use of a senior leader, and on top of that, the Germans will have the next phase. Right, it's the end of the turn, which means we've got no smoke, which means there's no cover. We've got a 3 and a 1 as well, so we need to get rid of all the smoke here. And yeah, we do have a gap in this barrier, but for the 3 and for the 1, we'll have this senior leader again activated. I'll go from there. Right, the senior leader with the 3 and the 1 means that the machine gun team, 8 dice, are going to fire at the 2 British who are pinned, and the 6 rifles are going to take that as a target. The senior leader standing in the open on his own. 5 and 6 to hit the senior leader, and that's 3 hits. It's going to be only a 6 will count in terms of shoot to kill. No, nothing doing there. Right, so we need 8 dice, which is the machine gun team now firing at 4 5s and 6s. So we have 1 2 3 4 5 hits. Pinned as if they're in soft cover. We have 1 kill, and that means that unit will break. He's at the junior leader. Yes, it is. And what will happen? It's a light wound. So, in actual fact, they won't break because we've still got, the shock is 3, and we've still got 2 men. Wounded is still a bad thing. consequence of that is a 2. Might be a -1, just check. No, actually 2 is no effect. German phase, second phase. 1 for the chain of command dice, which takes it up to 5, a 1 and a 3. This time with the 3, we're going to do exactly the same as what we've just done there. So the junior leader is ordering the MG34 firing at this team. The rifles will have another go at the senior leader over there. But with the 2, the whole section is now going to fire on this section moving in the open. Machine gun team getting 4, 5s and 6s. All but 1. 4 for shock, 4 and 5 for shock, 6 to kill. We have 2 points of shock there. With that, the team break. So we need to roll for that as well. Well, the -1, British down to 3, firing at the senior leader. And that looks like 2 hits, 6 to wound. No, nothing happens. Okay, from the 2 windows, we've got an MG48 firing and 2 riflemen firing on the British here. And really they're in the open because we allowed them to move that quickly, so we need 5s and 6s to start with. And we've got 2 hits on the machine gun team. The white is the machine gun team, and also one of them is killed. So one of the machine gun team is killed unless it's the leader. No, it's British phase. They're down to 3 dice, but it's a guards unit, so it still has 4 dice. 4, 3, and a 2. Okay, with the 4, the senior leader orders this section to fire as much as we can there at the infantry gun. So the Bren team and the rifles open fire. 12 dice, needing 4, 5s and 6s. 4 hits behind soft cover. Just 2 points of shock. Well, that was a bit death or glory, and it didn't really happen. So this truck is going to go hell for leather. 3 dice, double what we get. Let's see where it gets to. So 8, 16 inches. So it means it's a German phase. 3 2s, a 4 and a 3. The whole game really is now centred on this. We moved 16 inches, which actually fortuitously meant that they could be slightly behind this Bren carrier, and it's getting close enough to be off the board next phase, so really the Germans need to stop it here. Now in the truck we've got 1 single driver, and we've got 1 general with his hands tied, so you can't jump out the truck obviously. We don't really want to blow the truck up because they certainly don't want to kill the driver. That would be against the purpose. However, at the same time, what they don't want to do is let the truck go off the board. So one of the points might be to try and disable it and possibly do that with small arms fire rather than the infantry gun, which might blow the whole thing up. So let's see where we go. Junior leader is going to get the light machine gun to fire at it, which means, because it's got an armour of 1, it needs to roll a save, otherwise we've got a consequence. So first of all we need to see, do we roll a 5 or 6? No, we don't. So the truck will react to being hit by the machine gun fire. That's a 1, let's see what that is. The truck is hit by the machine gun fire, but there's no effect. The rifle fire isn't going to do anything. The junior leader orders them to fire again at the senior leader, the British senior leader, standing open there, which is a 5 or 6 to hit. And we have 1 hit. And it's a 5, so that's a wound. So he takes a wound. Let's see what happens. It's a 3, which means it's a light wound, which means as a consequence his command goes down to 2, however it's a bad thing. 2 is a -1. Senior leader wounded is a -1, so the British are down to 2. Well, we have 3 2s and a 4. We can't do anything with the section in here. It's also just outside 18 inches anyway from the truck, so the only person who can do anything is the senior leader, and it's whether he wants to order the section here, the infantry gun, to fire at the truck. Right, he's going to fire, and woe betide what happens, but yep, we're going to fire. Gun fires. And 7, I think, is a hit, but I'm going to double check. Well, it's a 7, and actually a 7 is a miss, because it would be a 7, however, sorry, it would be a 5, but it's obscured, which is a 7, and it's moved flat out, which requires an 8, so therefore that's a miss. Right, the British are down to 2 on morale, which means you get 3 dice, and just for calculation, that truck is about 20 inches away from getting over the line. However, we need a 3 even to start that, and they haven't got it. 2 chain of command dice and a 2. What can happen is that the section will fire. And 2 points of shock. German phase. 1 to the chain of command dice. It takes it up to 6. And then we have 2 1s and a 4. Right, the senior leader with the 4 is going to take the 2 points of shock off the infantry gun and get it to fire again at the truck, and then the whole section is going to fire at the lone senior leader. -6 is needed. 5 hits. And 2 wounds. This really could be game. So that's 2 wounds on the senior leader. What happens to him? 5 takes a down to 1 in his command, and the second, that's a second wound, and he is killed. Senior leader killed means this game is over unless I roll a 1. No, that would be a -3, and that means the British are down to 0, and the Germans win. However, I am going to see whether the truck is hit by the infantry gun. It didn't move flat out, and therefore, although it was obscured, it is hit. So let's see what happens in terms of the consequence of that. We've got the AP of 4 against armour of 1, and it's nothing over it, so let's see whether something might happen as a consequence. I'll have a look what a 4 would do. Moves 1d6, it reverses 2 inches, and that is game. Well, that's the end of the game. We have the British, unfortunately, their force morale in the end it was no good. We got very close with the trucks trying to get off the board here, but unfortunately it was ultimately stopped by the game itself, but also it had to retreat after being hit by the infantry gun. The British came close with this section here. However, the Germans still hold the church and this position with the infantry gun, and have a team here on the watermill. We still actually have a senior leader in this house as well. So in fact, it might well be, and who will know, whether the general was ultimately saved from the truck and back to fight again in France, May 1940. Okay, so I just want to say thanks for watching the video, and really appreciate it. If you've any thoughts, either with the game itself or the board, or you got any questions, then please feel free to drop a line on the YouTube channel. If I could just ask that you, if you've enjoyed the game, then please subscribe. Just click there and click on the bell there on YouTube, and then you'll be able to get what should be weekly updates, weekly games, or reviews, or painting tips, or all sorts of different things. But yeah, if you've enjoyed this game and you want to watch more of this on a really regular basis, then like I say, please click subscribe, and thanks very much for watching the game.